My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Pain means pause on the things you love, but green means go. Cool the pain with BioFreeze. Powerful pain relief for sore muscles and joints, simple backache, arthritis, strains, sprains, and bruises. BioFreeze, fast-acting menthol pain relief. Visit biofreeze.com, the #1 clinician-recommended menthol topical pain relief brand, based on a survey of clinicians, chiropractors, podiatrists, massage therapists, physical therapists, retail pharmacists, and athletic trainers. Ipsos Clinician Survey. Use as directed.
The following is a presentation of News Radio KMAN, your home for high school sports. This is Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN.
How about those Cats, ladies and gentlemen? K-State 3-0 to start the season off. A big win over a top 20 opponent in Arizona last night, 31-7, as K-State, for the third time in the Chris Kleiman era, starting a season 3-0. And I was a little disappointed I couldn't get to see the whole game because I was out in Wamego last night with Troy Coverdale for the Wamego Rock Creek game. But great to see K-State picking up a win as they now head into conference play next week as they begin the conference schedule with BYU. Good morning and welcome into another edition, of course, of Scoreboard Saturday here on News Radio KMAN, brought to you by WTC Communications. WTC, keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game with WTC online at WTCKS.com. We have a lot to get into today on the second episode of Scoreboard Saturday for the new year. Of course, we'll start off in the Centennial League with the Manhattan Indians, who did not play last night but played Thursday night, and it was a top 5 matchup in 6A between them and the Firebirds of Lawrence Free State. And Mitch Fortner and Cole Dutchendorf were on the call for that one on Thursday night.
For head coach Joe Schartz and the Manhattan Indians, a historic win for head coach Joe Schartz and the Manhattan Indians as the 5th-ranked Tribe at home go to 2-0. As Thursday night, they knock off Lawrence Free State by the final score of 38-28. Mitch Fortner with Cole Dutchendorf. Cole, Manhattan led 10-0 at the half. Low-scoring game. It was a back-and-forth contest in the second half. Manhattan scoring on the ground, Free State through the air.
Yeah, and Carter Aslan was the bulk of the load on the ground. He had 21 carries for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns. Had a touchdown run of 73 yards, 1 yard, and 10 yards. Jaden Hudley also had a great day on the ground. 8 rushes for 64 yards and a touchdown that essentially iced the game with about 2 minutes left in that fourth quarter. So as a team, 30 carries, 272 yards, and 4 touchdowns on the ground. Carter Aslan through the air, 15 for 22 for 170 yards and 1 interception. J.J. Dunnigan had 4 catches for 48 yards. Gabe Summerlin, big night through the air, 4 catches, 79 yards. Jaden Hudley added 5 catches for 24, and Landon Dobson had a couple of catches for 19 yards. So total yards for Manhattan, 442, 212 in the first half, 230 in the second half. For Lawrence Free State, it was the air numbers that leap off the stat sheet to me. 11 for 21 was Boston Baker for 265 yards and 4 touchdowns. Lit up the field through the air. Landon Leipold had 2 catches for 62 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Madden Brittingham was the other big receiver for the Firebirds. 5 catches, 183 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They also added 128 yards on the ground. They had 382 yards, 361 of which came in the second half.
Manhattan had a couple sacks in the game, their first 2 of the season. Evan Middleton and Garrison Vikander each on the defensive line with a sack. Manhattan forces 1 turnover in the game. And Manhattan, the biggest bugaboo tonight was probably the penalties. They had 11 in the game, 19 first downs, but Manhattan struggled on third down, just 1 of 7 in the game. But what's important is Manhattan is now 2-0, back on the road in Week 3. As coming up this Friday, they'll be heading to Hayes to face the Hayes Indians at Fort Hays State, and pregame coverage this Friday will be at 6:30 and kickoff at 7 o'clock. Manhattan 2-0 after a 38-28 victory over Lawrence Free State. Head coach Joe Schartz of Manhattan, 131 wins, 31 losses. For Cole Dutchendorf, I'm Mitch Fortner. This is Scoreboard Saturday.
And thank you to Mitch and Cole as always. And yeah, congratulations to Coach Schartz, who is now 100 games over the 500 mark in his career at Manhattan High. Manhattan 2-0 as mentioned, and 2-0 in district play. They have one more game that is not a conference matchup next week, and that is against Hayes, who is already off to a 1-1 start on the season. Got blown out by the defending champs Derby last week, but they beat Wheat Ridge last night, who's a team out from Colorado, 42-7. So the Manhattan Indians and the Hayes Indians will do battle next week in Hayes for the third game of the season, and then Manhattan's got to go to Junction City the following week. So the Tribe on a bit of a road trip here. That'll be a bit of a travel for our guys Mitch and Cole next week, but then Junction City after that. And then as they get into the month of October, 3 of their final 4 games will be at home against Emporia on October 4th, Wichita Northwest on October 11th, and then at Topeka High on the 18th, and then to finish the year at home against Washburn Rural before postseason play. But Manhattan, who came into the season as a likely favorite for the 6A state title, off to a good start at 2-0. Obviously, a lot of season still left, but in a pretty good position right now as they are 2-0 on the season. Mitch had an opportunity to talk to Coach Schartz after Thursday night's game. Now here's that conversation for you.
Kind of a tale of two halves there between the first and second half. What did you kind of see change after the break that for the offense?
It's a war of attrition. We had our players were getting tired. You know, we got several guys going both ways, and that's what it came down to. I mean, when we were fresh, we were dominant, and so we're going to have to find some more kids to step in there and play quality football for us. But the football players that we put out there, they played a well of a game.
What did you see from Lawrence Free State making an adjustment in the second half to kind of take away Carter's running game outside of the one big play?
Well, they had a lot of kids in the box, and it really came down to just execution up front. They had that stacked defense, and the backers were blitzing and coming off the edge, and they're getting a lot of people there. So, and it was kind of a guessing game. We just got to get better at our reads and some of our RPOs and seeing and counting people in the box. And we definitely have to get better with our execution up front. One time, we try to help our kids and they would get extra people there, and sometimes we just guessed wrong. But, it's early in the season. This is going to be good film, good teaching film, and hopefully we can get some of those mistakes corrected.
I know there's probably a few plays JJ wanted to have back in this game, but he does get that big kickoff return. How big was that for you guys?
Well, we work hard on our special teams, and we won special teams tonight. Especially when they had a great kicker, and we still won the special teams battle. So, that's a feather in our cap. We're dangerous, and hopefully we continue to win the special teams battle.
It took Free State middle of the third quarter to pick up their first down. That wasn't because of a penalty on Manhattan. Were the penalties adding up of frustration? Was frustrating to you tonight?
Well, it was, but it's kids playing hard, and for the most part, we had some stupidity out there, and we got to get that cleaned up. But those things are gonna hurt us going down in the playoffs and things like that. We just can't do it. So, and it's not about that. It's not about showboating. It's about playing good team football and executing well, and so we definitely have to get some of that cleaned up.
Did you get an explanation on Carter Aslan when he rolled into the end zone and they threw, I think, unsportsmanlike on that? I thought he just rolled in, but maybe did they think that he didn't need to roll in to the end zone?
Yeah, it was he did that on purpose, and they deemed it as unsportsmanlike, and Carter just needs to not do that. Just run the ball in, hand the ball to the official, and run to the sideline.
I have one more for you. Historic one for you. I don't know if you heard about this or anything. I saved it to the end of the broadcast. Didn't want to jinx anything. Today was your 131st win here in Manhattan. You have 31 losses, so you have exactly 100 more wins than losses. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's just, but it's one game, and the kids played well, and it's about them and the type of work and effort that they've put in. It's great to be a Manhattan Indian, and it's great to be coaching these kids because, the difference in the game tonight was our kids' heart. We just outlasted them, we outfought them, and very proud of them.
All right, Coach, we'll see you Friday in Hayes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks to Mitch and Toby Hamas from the Manhattan Mercury. And Toby mentioned J.J. Dunnigan right there. Big play in that ball game was the 99-yard touchdown off of a screen pass that J.J. Dunnigan was able to take in as Manhattan 2-0. Last year, Hayes came to Manhattan in the third game of the season, and Manhattan blew them out 49-7. And I just wanted to quickly check here and see how Hayes did last season. K-Prep's being a little bit slow here this morning. 3, 2, 1. Come on. Well, they were okay. Oh, excuse me. That's actually from this year. Come on. 3, 2, 1. And they went 7-3. Had a decent team last year. Lost to Manhattan, lost to Garden City in overtime, and then lost in the playoffs to a very good Goddard Eisenhower team on the road. So this is no slouch for sure. Manhattan's definitely going to have a test next week going on the road, but Hayes obviously not as solid as they were last year. And they did receive 8 votes this week in the media poll, which we will get to a little bit later on in the program. Let's go around the rest of the Centennial League for you on this Saturday morning. We'll head to Junction City, who Manhattan will be playing in 2 weeks. And they had a crazy ball game the other night with Lawrence, a 69-56 final. Lawrence picks up the win over the Blue Jays as Randall Zimmerman's team drops to 1-1 on the season. And Troy made the comment last night on the B1047 Carpet One of Manhattan Game of the Week. He said, I've called arena football games. I've called 8-man. I've never seen that high scoring of a game before. And I have to agree with you. That is a very high scoring game, particularly for 11-man high school football. So Junction City 1-1 now on the season. They'll play Wichita Northwest on the road next week as they look to try to get a win back after losing Thursday night. Topeka High, another team that played on Thursday, they were able to down Wichita Heights 27-14. So the Trojans 2-0 to start their season, and they'll hit the road next week to play Wichita Southeast. And then they have a road contest with Emporia the following week as they start Centennial League play. Speaking of Emporia, they are the only winless team in all of the Centennial League. They fell last night to Wichita West 40-12. As they are now 0-2. They will play Coffeyville-Kinley at home next week. As for Washburn Rural, they're 1-1 on the season, and last night not able to pick up a victory over Blue Valley as they fall 34-7 in that one. They play Platte County, a team out of Missouri, next week, and then they'll play Blue Valley Northwest. They got to travel to Missouri for that ball game next week, next Friday night, that is. Topeka Hayden, the final team on the list, taking down St. Michael, the Archangel, out of Missouri, 42-14. They got a contest with Bishop Ward the following week. And then 2 weeks from now, they'll be at Wamego for the B1047 Carpet One of Manhattan Game of the Week. So, yeah, definitely an eye to keep on. So everybody right now in the Centennial League outside of Emporia's got at least one win, and it's a 3-way tie at the top with Manhattan, Topeka Hayden, and Topeka High at 2-0. When we come back, we'll dive into the NCKL news, also discussions with Weston Moody and Shane Sieban as we look back at last night's contest between Wamego and Rock Creek. It's coming all your way next on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications.
Ask your doctor about Air Supra, albuterol budesonide. Eligible patients can pay as little as $0 per inhaler, subject to eligibility rules and maximum savings limits. Restrictions may apply. Visit airsuprasavings.com to learn more.
ABC Wednesday. It's the premiere everyone is talking about.
I'm Joan, and I'm your first Golden Bachelorette.
Loves getting a second chance.
When you're 61 years old, you have very few opportunities to change your life. I have to be ready.
The Golden Bachelorette is proving romance never ages.
I represent millions of people in their golden years looking for love.
The Golden Bachelorette.
I am ready to find the next great love of my life.
Series premiere Wednesday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Yeah, as mentioned, Dave Ramsey, 10-1 weekdays, except Mondays and Fridays when we get that started at 11 for you. Kim Commando's show, by the way, coming up next for you on this Saturday from 9 until about 11:30, and that's when Royals baseball will take over. They have an early tilt today with the Pirates, a 12:05 first pitch, 1:05 local time out there in Pittsburgh as the Royals. I didn't see it. Let me check really quickly here. I didn't happen to catch the game last night. Looked like they were winning last I checked. Yeah, they won 8-3. So the Royals will look to try to make it 2 in a row this afternoon. Tomorrow we have a very busy pro sports day for you. Triple header. We'll start off with Royals baseball for you. Pregame at noon with first pitch around 12:30. And then around 2 o'clock, we'll send you out to Arrowhead Field. Not Arrowhead Field, AJ. What are you saying? Arrowhead Stadium. People are going to crucify me for saying that. Arrowhead Stadium for Chiefs football against the Bengals. Pregame at 2 with kickoff around 3:25. And then following that, we'll get you out to Sunday Night Football coverage between the Houston Texans and my Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams going to have a big game next week. But in all seriousness, yeah, big day for sports tomorrow. Arrowhead Stadium, age. God, people are going to crucify me for that. And you know what? I don't blame them one bit for wanting to do that. Get you now into NCKL news. We talked Centennial League in the first segment. Last night, the Beat 104.7 Carpet One in Manhattan game of the week between Rock Creek and Wamego. The first time these two teams are matching up as conference opponents. First matchup against the two teams in 7 years. And two great coaches, great friends, Shane Sieban and Weston Moody going against each other. And Wamego, who blew out Concordia in week 1, coming away with the shutout win 20-0. And the last 2 years, a big key to Wamego's success and why they've been on this run has been their defense. I talked to head coach Weston Moody from the Wamego Red Raiders after the ball game. If I can get my mouse here, that's gone missing, and I hate it when this happens. There we go. Weston Moody after the ball game here on Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN.
Defense was really tough tonight. Obviously they have an offense that's prolific. They score a lot of points, so defense coming out and pitching shutouts. And we weren't good offensively, so kudos to our defense.
Talk about Logan Fulton's development throughout the offseason, coming in as a sophomore quarterback. He really looked poised tonight at times.
Yeah, he did a great job of making plays, and we kind of got a little bit conservative in the second half once we got that score. So we didn't really pass it that much after that last touchdown pass. So very poised, made good decisions, things that you can't teach.
And obviously you got history with Coach Sieban. What does it mean to finally get to play against him and then get that win here?
Well, I told him I don't like playing against him. Obviously, I like coaching with him. I respect him. I respect his team. And I told him, hey, it's going to be a battle for years to come.
And we obviously know this defense can shut it down, but what do you like from the offense and what would you like to build off of going forward?
I thought we took advantage of, big plays. I mean, we took advantage of big plays, and that's kind of what we had talked about all week is that we're going to have to hit some big plays and, manage the clock if we need to, if we get some scores. So I thought we did both.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Talk about your secondary a little bit more. Those guys just continue to hit hard, I feel like, every single week.
I think that's kind of like their mantra is like they're going to come out and pop you, and that's kind of what the last couple of years they've been, and tonight was no different.
You look ahead to the next couple of weeks. You're going to have Topeka Hayden here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be one of the tougher ball games for you guys on your field. As you look ahead for that matchup, what are some things you guys are going to try to work on going forward?
Well, obviously you want to be able to score more than what you did. There's always things you can work on. Marysville beat Nemaha Central last week, so they're next week at Marysville. So I think that's going to be a tough matchup as well.
Yeah, that's going to be quite the travel, I know, for you guys as well.
Yeah, it's going to be, it says on MapQuest it's an hour, but it feels way longer than that.
For sure, yeah, we made that trip out there last year. Busy summer for you. Does it feel nice to be back home with your kids again?
Oh yeah, it's you're doing a lot of stuff and you're busy, but it's nothing like having a routine.
Coach, great to talk to you as always, sir.
Appreciate you.
Head coach Weston Moody, great to catch up with him for the first time in quite a bit as Kansas Secretary of State Scott Schwab up here on CNN at this hour. Don't know why I mentioned that, just thought that was interesting. Talking about some election stuff that we are not going to discuss on this show because we are not a political show. Anywho, so yeah, great to catch up with Coach Moody as his team moves to 2-0. And as mentioned, they got Marysville next week on the road, which will be a very tough contest and then Topeka Hayden the following week. I made the comment there. We went out to Marysville last year when they took on, I believe it was Rock Creek, if I'm not mistaken, and that was quite the trek for sure. That is a stadium that, for those who don't know, was built through the Workers Program Administration, WPA, back under Franklin Roosevelt. So I guess a little political history for you right there. Also had an opportunity to talk to Rock Creek head coach Shane Sieban briefly after the ball game, after his team fell to 1-1 on the season.
Well, it's good for us because they're a really good football team, and it's a chance for us to learn a lot about ourselves and challenge ourselves against a bigger school that's really good. So it's a chance for us to learn.
It seemed like they really just they understood how to stop your guys' spread offense tonight. What did they do that you guys just weren't able to pick up on?
The fact that they were able to get pressure with 4. They had 4 in the box, and we weren't able to run the ball against a 4-man box. And when you can do that and you can drop 7-8 guys against the pass, it doesn't matter how many receivers you have out there. They did a great job up front, and then their back end was really physical as well. Safeties were very impressive for them.
Drew Becker left in the second quarter, tried to come back, had to leave after one play. What's his status right now?
We'll have to wait and see. He'll have to get looked at, but knee's just a little dinged up, and we'll see where it's at.
Yeah, they definitely they added a lot of physicality tonight, and I know a lot of your guys took some hard hits. As you look ahead to Bonner Springs, what's things you're going to try to work on in practice this week to come out with a victory next week?
Well, we got to check the film out and just see where we've made mistakes, and we've got to be more physical up front. I think it's the biggest thing. They just were more physical than us, and they got after us, and we didn't respond as well as we needed to.
Coach, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for the coverage.
Shane Sieban, head coach from Rock Creek. Great to catch up with him as well last night as his team falls to 1-1. Bonner Springs is the next, followed by a home contest with Abilene. Other games on the NCKL docket last night. Marysville, who's also the other unbeaten team so far in NCKL play, they blew out Hiawatha, shut them out 38-0 as they start up a 3-game homestand. As mentioned, Wamego next week, then Concordia the following week, and then 3 of their final 4 games for the season will be on the road. So Tony Trimble's team, after upsetting Nemaha Central, the defending state champs, last week, 16-8, they came out with a vengeance last night offensively, putting up those 38 points. So they're 2-0 to start the season, and they begin NCKL play next week. As for Concordia, who was a victim to Wamego last week, they were shut out by Beloit last night, 28-0, and they have a road contest with Abilene right now in the midst of a 3-game road trip before they play 3 of their final 4 games of the season at home. So 0-2 for the Panthers of Concordia High School. Other checks here, the Chapman Fighting Irish sitting at 1-1 for the season as they fell in a blowout loss to Abilene last night on the road, 42-8. Next week, they'll be headed to Riley County, which is our next B1047 Carpet One of Manhattan game of the week. Myself and Troy Coverdale will have the call on that one next week as Chapman and Jason Grider's team sitting at 1-1 for the season. And that's a quick look there for you at the NCKL. Only 2 teams unbeaten to this point, Wamego 2-0 and Marysville 2-0, although the Bulldogs have not played a conference game yet, or a league game yet. Still thinking about K-State with the conferences and everything like that. But in the end, we got a lot of wide openness right now going on in the NCKL. Coming up next, we'll dive into the Mid-East League, get you also a couple of looks at the media poll from this week, and then the TVL stuff to get you wrapped up here on this Saturday. It's all coming your way next on Scoreboard Saturday, powered by WTC Communications.
WTC Fiber Internet is coming to all of Manhattan, bringing you blazing fast, reliable internet from your local provider. No contracts, no overage fees, and no installation costs.
This episode is brought to you by Ring Cameras and Doorbells. A lot happens while you're away from home. That's why Ring makes it easy to check in from anywhere. Whether you're saying hi to an unexpected guest, making sure those packages are safe, or keeping your pets company while you're out grabbing groceries. It's all a few taps away, right from your phone. Be there with Ring. Explore cameras, doorbells, alarm kits, and more right now at ring.com.
Listen closely. as a master painter carefully brushes Benjamin Moore Regal Select down the seam of the wall. It's like poetry in motion. Benjamin Moore, see the love.
Back for some more fun here on Scoreboard Saturday. News Radio KMAN on this Saturday, the 14th of September. AJ Shaw with you here. Of course, this show brought to you by the great folks at WTC Communications. WTC keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game with WTC online at WTCKS.com. We dive now into the Big East League. I said Mid-East League. I knew I was going to do that at least once because obviously the league's changed up before the season. But again, it's the Big East League. I'm not losing it. I know what I'm talking about. I'm not losing my mind, folks. I can confirm that I am not losing my mind. I do know that it is, in fact, the Big East League. Speaking of which, though, on the Big East League, Riley County, one of our area teams that will be out to sea next week, boy, they're looking pretty good right now. Eric Williman's team 2-0 to start the season, and last night they had a game against a very, very, very good Holton team. And if you are a connoisseur of high school football in the state of Kansas, you know that Holton's a pretty darn good team. Riley County trailed at the half, and yet they were able to come back in their home opener and steal that from the Wildcats 21-20 as Eric Williman's team is 2-0 in Big East League play and in overall play. And next week they have a non-league battle with Chapman. But how about those Falcons? Eric Williman's team in 2A off to a fantastic start. They had the nice win last week at Jeff West. We had that game for you on B. And then they upset Holton last night 21-20, and this is without their quarterback, Eli Harmison. If you recall, Eli Harmison left the Jefferson West game with what appeared to be an ankle injury, and it looks like he's missing some time right now, and yet Riley County, without one of their best players, still able to go out there last night and pick up an upset win. So shout out to Coach Eric Williman's team. As mentioned, Chapman is next, and then a road tilt 2 weeks from now against Council Grove. Then they have St. Mary's the following week at home, Silver Lake and Heston on the road, and then Osage City at home to wrap up the regular season. But boy, if Eric Williman's boys keep playing like this, it's going to be 2021 all over again for Riley County as they are off to the 2-0 start. How about Royal Valley? They're one of our new teams this year that we're following with the Big East League, with the leagues merging. They're 2-0 as well. There are currently 3 teams in the Big East League that sit at 2-0 for the season. Royal Valley winning over Jeff West last night on the road 30-2. David Boucher's team only giving up the safety as they take down Jefferson West to go to 2-0 on the season, and they will take on the Holton Wildcats next week. And then you look at this gauntlet of schedule. You got Holton next week, Sabetha the following week, then Perry Lecompton, and you got Nemaha Central, the second to last game of the season. Whew, Royal Valley, no easy favors for them. How about St. Mary's? At one time, the 1A champs a couple of years ago. They've now moved up to 2A, and they were able to take down Rossville last night by a 24-19 final on the road. So the Bears, who are now up in 2A, Clayton Marple's team is 2-0 on the season, and they have a home tilt next week with Jefferson West. The following week, they play Silver Lake in what's going to be an excellent ball game. How about Nemaha Central, defending state champions? They were able to bounce back last night after a upset loss to Marysville, winning on the road at Silver Lake 35-7. Those are 2 very good teams, and we'll see that Silver Lake team later in the year on our area game of the week. Next week, Nemaha Central has a contest with Rossville. Then Chanute follows that the following week. They're sitting at 1-1 on the season. Perry Lecompton, I believe we mentioned them already a little bit earlier on the show. We did not. They played Sabetha last night and upset Sabetha. The Blue Jays going down to defeat to the cause of Perry Lecompton 12-9. Low-scoring ball game in that one. If it was a baseball game, we'd say that's a high-scoring ball game. Not so much in football. They bounce back after a tough loss, and as mentioned, Silver Lake is on the docket for them next week. as they sit at 1-1 for the season. And that's a quick look for you at the Big East League. Right now, the Big East League looking pretty darn solid overall for this season. As we only have 3 teams that are unbeaten, a lot of these top dog teams that you typically expect to be sitting with 1 to 2 losses, sometimes even no losses at the end of the regular season, already seeing a little blemish to their records to start the season. But that is the beauty of what is a massive conference. And you want to call it big? Yeah, it's a big league. It used to be the Mid-East League and the Big Seven. They merged together, and you have really just a massive conference. Typically, we dive into the high school football rankings, the media poll, at the end of the show. But since we got a little bit of time this morning, let's go ahead and dive into the media poll here for week 2. Obviously, this is going to be subjected to change just because of some of the things that have happened. And there's a bunch of changes this week. We have 3 new number 1s sitting across every single class. Hold on just one second. My apologies, folks. We'll start off with 6A. No change at the top with the top 8 teams. Derby still holding in first place with Lawrence Free State at 2. That's obviously going to change now with their loss to Manhattan High on Thursday. Lawrence, you could definitely see them bumping up a little bit just because of how they were able to handle a very solid Junction City team. Gardner Edgerton is at 4. Gardner Edgerton did receive 1 vote for first place vote last week, but they sit at 4. Manhattan's at 5. Manhattan is going to move up just a bit for sure with the win over Lawrence Free State. Wichita Northwest is at 6. Blue Valley Northwest is at 7. Wichita East at 8. So again, as I mentioned, the top 8 stays exactly the same for 6A this year. Meanwhile, 2 new teams joining in at the bottom rankings for 6A. Washburn Rural checks in at number 9, and Shawnee Mission Northwest checks in at 10. Junction City was the closest to receiving a shot in the top 10. Obviously, this week they're probably not going to be in the rankings because of the loss that they suffered to a very good Lawrence team. They got 17 votes. Blue Valley West was the second closest to receiving votes. They are at 4. Not much change in 5A. Mill Valley sticks at 1. Again, that's not much of a change right there. Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas is at 2. Blue Valley's at 3. Great Bend does move up 1 spot. They were at 5 last week. They bump up to 4 this week. And St. James Academy, who was not ranked in the first week's poll, they have bumped up to the number 5 spot. Goddard Eisenhower is up 1 spot. DeSoto, despite the win last week, they dropped down a spot. And Maize South will stay put at 8. Meanwhile, Salina Central and Topeka Seaman join the list at 9 and 10 this week. Basert Linwood coming in the closest with 13 votes, followed by Blue Valley Southwest. But a little bit of fluctuation in the middle, really, for 5A. We're not seeing a ton there. Obviously, St. James Academy checking in at 5 on the media poll this week. That's a pretty big deal for sure as they join the rankings. Last year, they had a very tough schedule, if you recall. They played some really good teams, and they were sitting in the rankings. But obviously, they ultimately fell out because they just didn't win enough games. As for 4A, we have a new number 1 team in 4A. Bishop Miege dropped down because of their loss last week. The new one, Andover Central, the team that knocked the Red Raiders of Wamego out of the playoffs last year, bump up 2 spots from number 3. They come in at 1. They got 9 votes in the media poll. Bishop Miege drops 1 spot. They got 5 votes, so 5 members of the media thought Bishop Miege was still good enough to be in that number 1 spot. Don't really agree with that. I think Andover Central is pretty well deserving of that spot. Cape and Mount Carmel, then, they dropped down to the number 3 spot despite winning last week. And I think a lot of that has to do with Bishop Miege winning championships, stuff like that. Buhler coming in at 4. Wamego at 5. Wamego's up 3 spots. Buhler moves up 1 spot. Lewisburg checking in at 6. They were not ranked last week. Chanute is at 7. They stay put. Wellington with the loss, though, last week. They go down 4 spots. McPherson dropping 3 spots. And Circle checks into the rankings after not being ranked last week. They come in at 10. Tonganoxie was the closest to receiving votes in 4A. But, yeah, a new team at the top in 4A. The Jaguars of Andover Central. Very good for them as they have a very talented team and definitely expecting they're going to be going on a long run this season. As for 3A, we have another number 1 team in 3A as well. Andale checks in at number 1 this week. They were 2 last week. They flip-flop with Cheney. Cheney coming in second. They received 4 votes. And then Topeka Hayden, Bill Arnold's team, sticking at 3. They got 2 votes for the number 1 spot. Wichita Collegiate then checks in at 4. No movement from them. Rock Creek at 5. That's obviously going to go down a smidge just because of the result from last night. Scott City sitting at 6. How about the Tigers of Clay Center? They bump up 3 spots from last week, checking in at number 7. Frontnick is down 1 spot from last week. They're at 8. Marysville now on the list, and you have to think the Bulldogs are going to move up for sure. They check in at 9 after not being ranked last week. And then Heston checks in at number 10, down 1 spot. Pratt was the closest to getting on the list with 21 votes in the media poll. In 2A, another change at the top. Norton checking in at number 1. They bump up 2 spots on the list because of Nemaha Central's loss last week. Also, southeast of Saline, they check in at 2, and they bump up 2 spots as well. Silver Lake is in at 4. Obviously, that's going to go down because Nemaha Central put a whooping on them last night. They check in at 4 after being at 6 last week. St. Mary's, you have to think that's going to bump up. They'll definitely jump Silver Lake. They check in at 5. Sabetha's up 2 spots. They're at 6th. Garden Plain, who was not ranked last week, bumps to 7. Osage City is down 1 spot. How about Hoisington? Hoisington was at 2 last week. They fall all the way down to tied for 8th with Osage City. And then Council Grove sticking at number 10. Humboldt getting the most votes. Kingman came pretty close as well. They got 19 votes. Then in 1A, not a ton of change. Medicine Lodge and Sedgwick, it's a bit of a jump for Medicine Lodge. Rossville did fall down a couple of spots with their loss. And then Mound Ridge was up 2 spots, sitting at number 7. And then South Sumner County and Troy check in on the list this week after not being ranked last week at 9 and 10. We'll dive into 8-man really quickly before we take our next break. A new team in 8-man 1. Hoaxie coming in at 1. They bump up 1 spot. Little River up 2 spots to number 2, while Wichita County falls back 2 spots. West Elk is up 1. South Central, that received a first-place vote, they are up 1 spot, with Central Plains up 2 spots. And then 3 new teams to the list this week on 8-man 1. Sylvan Lucas Unified, Linden, and Hill City all in 7, 8, 9. And then El Saline, who was at 3 last week, they fall back 7 spots in the rankings at number 10. And then finally, 8-man 2, Axtell, no surprise. They're the number 1 team. They won again last night. Frankfort checks in at 2, Victoria at 3, Burlingame at 4. Hanover does bump up 1 spot, with Dighton coming in at 6th. Osborne dropping down 2 spots, Mineola sticking at 8, and then Labo and Buckland, who were not on the list last week, check in at the 9 and 10 spots on the rankings. Of course, we'll go through this again next week. But a lot of changes for sure this week across the region when you look at the media polls. It comes out every Monday, and definitely something that we like to keep an eye on. When we come back, we'll dive into the Twin Valley League and also wrap up the show. I know it goes by so quickly. That's all coming your way next on Scoreboard Saturday, brought to you by WTC Communications. Final segment of the program here on Scoreboard Saturday on News Radio KMAN. As Steve Stewart mentioned there, Royals baseball at 11:30 today with first pitch a little bit after noon here on News Radio KMAN. KC winners last night, 8-3 over the Buccos of Pittsburgh. And looking to go to 2 in a row. Every game matters down the stretch, of course, as we near postseason play. And we may have postseason play. It's pretty much a certainty at this point that we are going to see the Royals in the postseason unless they lose their last 20 games or whatever. So, yeah, Pirates today. And then after this, 6 games at home, their final homestand of the year. 3 with Detroit Monday through Wednesday, an off day Thursday, and then 3 next weekend against San Francisco. And then you wrap up the regular season at Washington and then at Atlanta. So 12 games left in the Royals season after the Pittsburgh series comes to an end. Final segment, as I mentioned, we dive now into the Twin Valley League, our largest league that we cover throughout the area. We were able to dive in to what was going on across the state with the media poll, which we continue to look through each week. A lot of change, of course, at the top. Also wanted to mention this before we dive into Twin Valley League action. If you miss any of the show, please go ahead and check out our podcast. Just type in News Radio KMAN Scoreboard Saturday on 1350 KMAN, wherever you get your podcasts, and then hit that follow button. You'll never miss an episode then. We post the episodes right after the show comes to an end. So yeah, if you miss anything, if you miss an interview that you want to check out, we have you covered here on Scoreboard Saturday with the podcast. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. Twin Valley League action will start off with Frankfort, one of our area teams, and they've gotten off to just a real dominant start so far. Last night, destroyed Linden, 72-22, a 50-point blowout. That's the second straight week Nick Anderson's team has dropped 70 on the board. They dropped 70 last week at Clifton Clyde. This week, 72 against Linden, as that adds out to 142 points. Yeah, I'm not that terrible at math. Solomon on the road next week will be their following contest, and then a battle with Hanover on the road the following week. And then on October 11th, they'll play Blue Valley Randolph, another one of our area teams who is also 2-0 to start the season. The Rams, 54-28 victors on the road last night at Lynn, and they'll open up their home portion of the schedule next week against KC East Christian. Then they go on the road to play Axtell. And speaking of the Axtell Eagles, the win streak continues, the longest win streak in the state of Kansas. Shut out Washington County 70-0 last night. It wasn't even close. And if you look at the scoring breakdown combined through the first 2 weeks for Axtell in the wins over Washington County and Lynn, a combined 146-6 on the scoreboard for the Axtell Eagles. Eric Detweiler's team, folks, has not lost a game since the COVID year of 2020. I know that feels like a real long time ago. Take a guess who the last team they lost to. Take a guess for just a second. I'll give you just a second here. Hanover. Hanover beat them November the 6th, 2020 in the second round of the playoffs, 52-6. Ever since then, Axtell has not lost a game in the state of Kansas. Following season, they went 13-0. The year after that, 13-0. 13-0 last year, and they've now won 41 straight games. And knock on wood, I don't think they're going to be losing a game anytime soon. They got Chase County on the road next week, Blue Valley Randolph the following week. That is going to be quite the contest in a couple of weeks. We mentioned Hanover. They are also sitting at 2-0 for the season. They were able to down Clifton Clyde in a shutout victory last night, 50-0. Put up a 50-burger on them. So they sit at 2-0. Washington County is on the schedule next for them as they sit in a pretty good situation right now. We have 4 teams that are 2-0 currently right now, and then 3 teams that are 0-2 in the Twin Valley League. But again, that Axtell team, when you win 40-plus ball games in a row, you're doing something right. And Eric Detweiler's team, ever since the beginning of the 2021 season, they have done quite the job continuing to pump out victories each and every single week. Couple final things from me before we wrap up the show here today. I know it goes by so quickly every single week. Some of you may be saying, get this guy off the air. We can't stand listening to him. He just rambles on. Others are saying, we don't want him to go away. I get the point. But in all seriousness, a lot of things to discuss, of course. Next week, Riley County against Chapman for the B1047 area game of the week. We'll have that for you with a 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock kick from Riley. Of course, Manhattan High, they'll be on the road at Hayes. We'll have that game for you here on News Radio KMAN. Busy sports day then tomorrow. Very busy sports day tomorrow once more. Royals baseball will start at noon tomorrow with first pitch around 12:35 in the afternoon. And then around 2 o'clock, we're going to get you out to Chiefs coverage. Mitch Holtis on the call for that one as the Chiefs look to go to 2-0. We talked about Kansas City a little bit on the show last week. I made the comment on social media that Xavier Worthy is going to have a legacy game because the Bengals we're giving a lot of crap to Xavier Worthy. We know the whole thing with Burrowhead Stadium from the AFC Championship game 2 years ago. Have a feeling Xavier Worthy is going to have a big game tomorrow afternoon. Following that, Sunday Night Football, Bears and Texans. Bears are going to win. No, I'm joking. The Bears are probably going to get crushed because it's the Bears. Bears and Texans following the Chiefs coverage for you here on News Radio KMAN. Again, we'll be back again next week, 8 o'clock for Scoreboard Saturday. So normal time with K-State, of course, playing at 9:30. It's a little weird for us during football season depending on when Power Cat Game Day coverage starts. I want to touch on K-State really quickly, too, since we have a little bit of time left in the program to discuss that. Very impressed by K-State's play last night. As we look ahead to BYU, you have to think that's going to be probably the toughest game for them on the schedule, although we thought the Arizona game was going to be a tough game for them. BYU, Provo, Utah is a very tough place to play. It doesn't matter how good or how bad or how mediocre BYU is. They are a pain in the butt to play against, and it is not fun playing that team whatsoever. That could be a first blemish for K-State, and it's funny, in the 2 other times that K-State has started 3-0 under Chris Kleiman, they proceeded to drop the 4th game of their schedule. 2019, they won the first 3, then dropped 2 in a row. 2021, they started 3-0, and then they went 3-3. Of course, you guys all know that. You're bigger geniuses than I am when it comes to K-State stuff. Again, really appreciate head coaches Joe Schartz, Shane Sieban, and Weston Moody for joining us on the program this week. Again, we'll be back again next week, as I mentioned, 8 o'clock, with more great interviews, more analysis for you. And, of course, thank you to Mitch Fortner, Cole Deutschendorf, Troy Coverdale, our great sports team here at News Radio KMAN for helping us put these shows together. Stephen Schaefer as well on the production side of things. Really appreciate that all. That's going to do it for another edition of Scoreboard Saturday here on this Saturday. Have a great weekend. Go Chiefs. Of course, go Bears, because I have to say that. And especially go Cats. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next week here on Scoreboard Saturday, brought to you by WTC Communications. WTC, keeping you connected with the fastest fiber network internet speeds. Get your home or business in the game with WTC. Online at WTCKS.com. We out. Have a great weekend.